Hello and welcome back to Miss Riley's Maths videos. This is a video for my Leaving Cert Ordinary Level students about using the sine rule to find a missing angle in a non-right angle triangle. So it's a triangle where there's no right angle, so we can't use SOHCAHTOA. We're trying to find a missing angle and we're going to try and see whether we can use the sine rule to find that missing angle. Now, a reminder that the sine rule is found in our formula and tables book, which you should be very familiar with. So here's our formula and tables book. This is trigonometry, okay, trigonometry. So we're looking in our tables book here, we look for trigonometry, that's page 13. Now I've mentioned before that in the tables book, a lot of trigonometry at the start is higher level. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that page. We don't need to worry about these pages. We just keep going until we see a triangle. And then we know we're in the right place. So here's our trigonometry of the triangle. This is for a non-right angle triangle. Here it says it's a right angle triangle. Here it's a trigonometry of the triangle. It doesn't say non-right angle, but it is a non-right angle triangle. Now remember, when we're using a non-right angle triangle, we label it differently to a right angle triangle. We have sides and angles are opposite each other that have the same letter. So capital letters stand for angles and small letters stand for sides. And remember, a capital A will be opposite a small a. Capital C will be opposite the small c, capital B will be opposite the small b. Now, these are our two formulas here for finding a missing side or a missing angle. One is called the sine rule, one is called the cosine rule. I have a video about the sine rule, finding a missing side. I have two videos on the cosine rule, one to find a missing side and one to find a missing angle. What we're looking at now is the sine rule to find a missing angle. So let's look at our question. It's from last year's Leaving Cert paper. So here we have this fish shop logo, and it's very complicated looking, but I guess I can see that I have a triangle here, and then a triangle here. This triangle has no information. I'm going to ignore it for the minute. This triangle is CEF. Remember, we call a triangle by the three letters on the corners, and this is triangle ABC. Now, here we seem to be dealing with triangle ABC. I'm told that AB equals 12, which means the length of AB equals 12, but actually they've drawn it in anyway. Look, they've drawn it in my triangle. The length of AC is 10 centimeters, and ABC, that's the angle that's at B, made by joining A to B to C. So A to B to C, so the size of that angle is 37 degrees. Now, what they've been doing in the last few years is they draw you the diagram that matches the text, which makes it much easier because they've drawn the diagram for you. Okay, now in this question, I'm being asked to work out the size of the angle theta. I know it's a weird looking symbol, and we don't need to worry about what it's called. In the exam, you won't be saying theta anyway, just it's that angle, where it's the angle BCA. So BCA, it's that angle there, okay? And then give your answer correct to the nearest degree. So the first thing to notice is it's not a right angle triangle, so I can't use SOHCAHTOA. How do I know it's not a right angle triangle? I know it because there's no right angle drawn in. There will always be a right angle drawn in if it's a right angle triangle. Okay, so it's not a rat. So what I'm going to do is just sketch, or maybe I don't even need to sketch it. I can write on this diagram here. So the side I'm looking for, what I'm looking for, I'm always going to call A. Looking for A or A. It makes it much easier if what I'm looking for, I call A. So I'm going to call this A. I know it's called C here, it doesn't matter. For this purposes of this, I'm going to call this A. That makes that A. Now I have this angle, which is B, and I have the side opposite, which I'm going to call little b. Do you see they're opposite each other? And they are opposite each other. I don't know anything about this angle or this side, and I don't need it, because for the sine rule, which I'm going to find out in a minute works, I only need 3 out of 4 things. So it's not a right angle triangle. So my options are the cosine rule or the sine rule. Now, most people like to use the cosine rule because it's quite a bit easier. So I'm just going to try it. Imagine if it was the cosine rule. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now, if you're watching this, you're going, oh, but we were going to use the sine rule. We are going to use the sine rule, but most people like to try this first and then see what happens. So let's see, a squared. A is 12 squared. A equals 12, B equals 10. I don't know C. A equals theta, B equals 37, and I don't know C. Okay, so remember FIFA, formula, information, fill, and answer. So let's try and use the cosine rule. 12 squared is equal to 10 squared plus C squared, I don't know C, minus 2 by 10 by C cos A, which is what I don't know. Look here, there's too many things I don't know. I don't know C and I don't know A. I don't have enough information to use the cosine rule. So not enough information for the cosine rule. So I'm going to have to use the sine rule. Sine rule. Now, the sine rule, there's the sine rule. Do you notice in this version of the sine rule, the sides are on the top and the angles are underneath? Okay, let's write it down. We've got A over sine A is equal to B over sine B is equal to C over sine C. These are sides over angles. I'm actually looking for an angle. I'm looking for the angle A. So I'm going to change this round so that my angles are on top, and that'll actually help us a little bit in a minute. Okay, so here's our information. Sine A, which is what I'm looking for, sine A over 12 is equal to sine B, which is sine 37, over B, which is 10. Okay, now this is nasty, and the reason everybody thinks this is nasty is because of the fractions. I get it, I understand it. So let's see, what can we do to make it look a little bit less? Two different ways at least that we could do it. The first way we could do it, let's just put a line under there, is we could multiply both sides by 12 before we do anything else. Now, why would we multiply both sides by 12? We'd multiply both sides by 12 because 12 is underneath what we're trying to find, and that is a problem. Okay, if there's a number underneath what we're looking for and we've got this fraction, it can be a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to do is multiply that side by 12 because that will cancel and become 1, and that'll get rid of the fraction. But of course, so whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to the other side. So I've got to multiply that side by 12 as well. So what I have is sine A is equal to sine 37 times 12 divided by 10, or sine 37 divided by 10 multiplied by 12. Let's stick that in here. Sine 37, can you see that? Yeah. Sine 37 divided by, sorry, it's not great here, divided by 10 equals, and then multiplied by 12 equals. And what we get is 0.722. So sine A is 0.7222, actually. So if that's what sine A is, remember to find A, to find angle A, because we have the sine and we're looking for the angle, we're going to do shift sine 0.722. That gets us sine inverse of A, which is what I want. I have the sine, I'm trying to find the angle, so I've got to do shift sine 0.7222 equals, and that equals 46.24 degrees, and I'm asked to give the answer to the nearest degree, so that's just going to be 46 degrees. Play that back again if you need to. Now, my students tell me that that's really hard, so I'm just going to give you something else, a different way to do it that might help a little bit. And that is that we're going to deal with this side first, because by dealing with that side first, at least we've shown we know we have to divide them. So let's divide sine 37 divided by 10. 0.06018, so 0.0602. 0602, 0.0602. Okay, now some people find it easier now to see that I have to multiply both sides by 12 because that's not as much of a mouthful as that is. So sine A is equal to 12 times 0.0. So 12 times 12 is 0.7221. 0.722 when I round it to 4 places. And then again, I'm in the same situation. Then what I do is I do shift sign and I get that A is 46. So you only do one of these, okay? But if you do one of these, it'll work out.